Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
I have a guest with me today.
Well, Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy
so.
Mother's Day to me. You're not there yet. No, we're not making an announcement.
Not there yet.
I brought my guest, my youngest daughter, Dominique, on today because I know that for UnMothered, we always are dealing with these hard topics of motherhood. So we wanted to do a positive spin on motherhood, and what better person to come on than a daughter to explain as an unmothered, like how I raised my girls, good and bad. Also, if you hear any background noise, we have some, people working on the house next door.
We purposely went to my house because there's people working next door to my mom's house. And so we were like, oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Guess that didn't work. I guess construction follows us.
Everybody's working on their houses except for us. So excuse the noise if you hear it. We just wanted to do a few questions. I wanted to kind of interview Dominique as a daughter of a mom that was unmothered, like how those things worked well, what things didn't work well, and just some general ideas. Maybe it'll give you guys some suggestions, like if you're not a mom yet and you are going to be a mom, like how do I deal with this growing up as an unmothered? How am I going to be a good mom? And then also just, how we can do better. So I'm going to ask you just some rapid fire things. I know.
I'm nervous.
Scared. She hasn't seen these questions.
I'm nervous because one, I'm behind the cameras. So I'm always making sure things are nice and pretty.
And now it's going to be
now
messy.
I'm in front of the camera.
No, it'll be good. Okay. So real quick, if you can think of something, what's your favorite tradition or memory as a child growing up in our family?
I think that's actually an easy one for me because I think the tradition that I always have in my mind is our ravioli day. Making ravioli was always fun. But that's, I guess, more so on dad's side of the family. That's our tradition.
Yeah.
So I guess
but
second.
It became our tradition as a family. Yeah.
But I guess second, in my mind, I would say chocolate chip cookies. Baking in the kitchen, making food. That's always a core memory.
Yeah. And that's something that was a good memory with my mom too. So yeah, good.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Thanks. I passed.
Phew, first question done. Were you closer with dad or I when you were growing up?
Neither. I was closer with myself.
She hated us.
Hate's a strong word. We don't use the word hate in our household, as my mother told me.
Exactly.
But I would say honestly, in a way, neither, because I just wanted to be my own person. But then as I grew up, I would say more so you, and then dad. But then it was funny because the other day,
back and forth.
Yeah, but the other day, Kate and I were talking about how I love doing father-daughter dates with dad. So I think in a way we kind of kept our relationship, but I wouldn't say it was close.
Good answer. Okay. Was there something that I could have done to make your childhood less stressful?
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's one part of me was you raised us to be so independent, and so I love you for that, because I think if you didn't, I wouldn't be where I am today. But then on the other hand, there's times we were talking about the other day where I was oh, it would have been nice if you came in or if you stepped in during this one situation I was having or something. Yeah. But it's a twofold, because then I wouldn't be as independent as I am, or I maybe wouldn't have learned the lesson that I needed to learn. So
good advice. Yeah, I know it's hard to know the balance, especially when you haven't been taught the balance from my mom, and so I didn't know when to step in or when to pull back. So I was probably more of a tough mom as far as well, I needed to figure that out on my own growing up, so you do too.
Or being tough in the sense of well, I'm not going to step in,
right? Because
I don't want to be that mom. I don't want to be that room mom.
Yeah.
That is a little too much. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. What was your favorite childhood dish?
Oh, chicken enchiladas. I still make them today.
Chicken enchiladas.
That's an easy one.
We just made those last week. Yeah. Dad was so happy.
I almost made them this week.
Oh,
they're
cool.
that's
I didn't know that was your very
Oh
favorite.
my gosh, that is. Like, no, and then I was
Rotisserie chicken.
yeah, so I was telling my husband, like, we make them a specific way, and you have to make them in a specific way.
Yeah.
And then I was laughing because, like, when I was little, I hated onions, and so then you would always make them without onions, but you'd put a little olive on top of the ones that didn't have onions,
or a toothpick.
Yeah. So I was telling him, I was like, oh, but now I love onions. So I was like, we put onions on top of it. We put olives on top.
Cute.
Yeah.
See, eventually you start learning to like all that food. So I know we didn't go on vacations a lot, but do you have a memory of a favorite vacation or like we used to do like weekends or like quick getaways?
Our vacations were dance competitions. That was the vacation.
I was thinking of the one when we got snowed in Tahoe, though. That was kind of fun.
I don't remember
You
that.
don't remember?
Yeah. Maybe you're
That was my favorite.
Maybe you're thinking of your other daughter.
No, it was both of you were there. You were little.
No, I mean, like, family vacation, it's hard because it's like if we went on vacation, like a big vacation, Dad usually didn't come because we, like, when we went to Australia that one time for dance, like, he didn't come.
Yeah.
So then I don't think of it as, like, family vacation.
True.
But I would say, like, so, like, to me, it's, like, split because on one hand, I always remember our first New York trip. That one was, like,
that was fun.
Core memory because obviously, like, that's what
we were all together.
Kind of trajected me into, like, wanting to live in the city.
Yeah.
And then also, I think about there was, like, 1 or 2 Disneyland trips we did. That was pretty fun. And then even though, like, it was the trip from HE double hockey sticks.
Maui.
Yeah, it was a trip from HE double hockey sticks.
Mostly because the kids were
we were at awkward ages.
18 and 21.
Yeah, awkward ages to go on Hawaii, like, with your family. Like,
they had attitude.
If you're not close already, like, we're not. Ariel and I are not extremely
Super
close.
Yeah,
and at that point, we really weren't close. So I think that was the hard part. And then we just were we just were at different ages.
Yeah.
But even though, like, that one was, not our best.
It's not my favorite.
Then it's like, I feel like we got to redo it though.
Yeah.
Like, later on, like, I was 25. So I feel like it was just, to me, like, what's it called? Like a
redo.
but like a full circle moment. It was this full circle moment. I can't talk.
Yeah, because Ariel had Costin by then, and we all went back as a family, and everybody was in different, like, more mature places. That was a super fun, vacation.
Yeah. For me, like, that's a core family vacation, which is ironic because we all were older.
No, but I like that. I think that's a good lesson to tell people too, is like, we have these ideas in our head of these perfect moments and vacation, like family moments, and then when they go awry, like, in our heads we know what we want it to look like, and then sometimes it just becomes a show. It's just off the rails, and you're like, what happened? Like, this wasn't how I had it planned in my head. And so as a mom, that's heartbreaking because you think, like, well, now the whole family's falling apart, and it's never going to be the same, and how are we going to get past this? And that was, like, a big thing, the first vacation, because we didn't talk for a while. Like, we had to have, like, a huge sit down months later. It was like there was a lot of hard feelings. And then to be able to come back later on when everyone kind of matured a little bit more, they were in different places in their lives. I think
I just kind of ignored it, and then it went away.
She's good at that.
Yeah. But I also, like, at that point, I was like, I'm not dealing with this because I wasn't living in the house.
Your headspace was in a different
Well, I was
place
18,
too.
so I was moving. And then I remember for Ariel, I was just like, well, you're doing your own thing. So I was like, I'm not going to step on your toes.
There's a lot of girl attitude going around. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's nice. I liked that we were able to go back and have a nicer vacation and really enjoy each other's company. So there is hope for that too.
Yeah.
There's
hope for the future.
There's hope. So if you have a really crappy vacation, just know, like, it's a moment.
If your daughter's butt heads, there's hope.
It's a moment. It's fine. So I know we've discussed before that, like, I had trust issues with you guys growing up because of my trauma, and I was scared and didn't trust anyone. And that's how I dealt with it. But I wanted to know, has that affected you in any way as an adult now?
Like, trust issues?
Yeah.
I would say I definitely am untrusting towards a lot of people.
I'm so sorry.
And I find it funny because I'll be like, no.
No.
Like, I don't catch that vibe. And my husband's just like, what do you mean? Like, I
Yeah.
don't, and I'm like, no, something's off. Vibes are off or
Yeah.
something's off. Or like,
Which that's different. Like intuition, I think is really
yeah, but
important.
I think you instilled
but
a
I
higher
think it's
intuition.
a higher, like we're ready to mistrust
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
before we trust. Yeah.
And that's I think one. And then two, I think a flip side of that though is it gave me so many street smarts to really, in a way, distrust people and then be like, no, I need to see where you're about first. Like I'm not gonna, and then in an ironic way, I feel like I'll meet someone and I just spill all my life stories. And so I tell them
It's either one way or
yeah, it's just, it really,
you're now my best friend.
yeah, like,
or we don't like you. I don't know
I'll tell
why.
you everything. And then they like say something wrong the next time. And I'm like, what? They're so mean.
Cut off. They're dead to me.
Like what?
So yeah, I think, and that brought me up to also, I think like when you moved to New York, I was kind of glad that I taught you street smarts and just to be aware of things and not be so naive to everything. I did see some moms who were overprotecting their kids growing up because they just, were so scared for them. And then the kids would turn 18 and they didn't know how to handle life.
Yeah.
It was like I remember one time where there was a girl working in at the mall and this crazy guy came in and she just had no idea how to handle that situation. And she hid in the bathroom and called her mom. She didn't even call 911.
Yeah.
She called her mom. And I'm like, well, you should have imparted some of that to your child because she was working later in the afternoon into evening by herself, which that wasn't a smart thing for the owners, but that's
oh my gosh, I did that so many times at the outlets or even that one time in our downtown, like when that one guy came in and he was like, this guy was like clinically psychotic and he then like the next day the FBI was like put out this like search, not for him, but it was a guy that looked exactly like him. And basically like, I remember even that, like that freaked me out, but like I felt at that point I had already lived in New York. So I think I just felt more like street smart in that sense. Yeah. But I think it also like, it showed me the distrusting kind of like helped me perceive, okay, who can I trust, who can I not trust? So it did kind of help me perceive that and also gave me the confidence to like trust my instinct. It gave me the confidence to like know that I have an instinct and not like just distrust everyone and flippantly.
I did. And I think that's like good to know too, is like as an unmothered, there are things that are trauma filled from your past that unwillingly, like at the moment, I didn't know until I started studying, trauma and what it does to your body and brain and how it can come out in other areas. I was raising my kids from this place of like a trauma imparted mindset of what my mom had gone through and the things I had to deal with as a kid. And so I was unknowingly putting that into your guys' head too, thinking that that was my way of keeping you guys safe, is to be like ultra aware and stuff. But then there's a limit of like, I wasn't really seeing the goodness in the world. Like everything was just kind of like danger, danger. But that was my like inner child saying everything was dangerous and I had to protect you guys at all ends. And I think that happens when you've grown up being in dangerous situations. You automatically want to keep everybody safe around you. So,
but the irony in that is you can go too much on that side and shield your kids from everything in the entire world. But I feel like even when we were talking the other day, like you letting us walk to school because it was down the street. Like most parents wouldn't even let you do that. That these days, and it was my sister and I walking. Like alone. Like that's putting a trust in us.
But I met you at the top part. Like I would, there was times when I was watching you guys, or I would like stand at the corner waiting and knowing, like timing it. Okay, this should take them because we lived right around the block from the school. So,
but even that,
but that's scary.
But like you could have gone the opposite way and gone totally like you were never walking alone.
Right.
And it was very opposite. I feel like in a way it almost
Well,
a
I remember
healthy
when you wanted
boundary.
to ride your bike to school,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh, no, it's so scary. And then I let
Yeah.
you do it one time, and
Never again, because I probably fell.
I let you do it a few times, but
Okay.
you were a little unsteady. I was like, I
I don't trust her.
gonna hit a
That's
car.
fair.
I don't know.
I don't ride bikes today
Yeah, I know.
purposely anyway.
Like,
So
she's not that coordinated. But yeah, all those things are like really, like, the world is scary. Like, things are scary when you have to trust your child to, at what age can you like release the reins a little bit? And even more so now, now it's just like even more so where you're so scared of, there's so many possibilities of things that can happen. But also what we were talking about is there's more electronics and things that can track your child. There's more ways, like we didn't have phones that we could call you guys. We didn't have like the trackers on the phones that, find my kid.
yeah.
And stuff
Well,
like
you
that.
did
So
when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Turn that off.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I think, even with like it being more scarier, there's also more provisions to help keep your child safe. And it does come back to trust and also imparting them to be aware of their surroundings and a little bit of street smarts too. It's like you have to release that control. It's a hard balance.
It's a hard balance, yeah.
It is a hard balance. As a preteen or a teen, how do you feel like I should have listened a little bit more to you, or could I have?
Let's just preface this, okay? As a preteen teen, I was horrible. But I don't know. I mean, listening.
You weren't horrible. You were just.
I was.
You were hard.
I was.
But look at her now.
I'm embarrassed
It's
to
so
even like think about those memories. I'm like, oof.
Some kids are harder than others.
I was real hard. But I think like listening, I will say I remember a couple times where you might have just kind of like I'm busy, like, and maybe you were in your own like stressful moment or whatever. But like, I think it would have been, I don't know, like maybe it would have been nice if we sat down and chatted more, but I really don't know how you could have helped that. Like,
well, I think there's a way now. I know how to communicate differently. I think there's a way.
There was ways you didn't know how to communicate back then.
I think imparting good questions to your kids, especially preteens, of like, instead of just saying how was school today or something like that.
Oh my God, that was like my most annoying. I
know,
hated.
I know.
When
and
both
Dad
my parents,
would always ask
both
you
my
that
parents,
too.
I would get in the car and my dad would go, "How was your day
How's your
today?" And I was like,
day?
"Fine." And then he's like, "Just fine." And I was like, "It's fine." He goes, "Did you learn anything?" I'm like, "No." And I would.
No.
This is me at like 13, 14. I'm like, don't talk to me. Like, and you're at that age where you're just like hormonal and going through puberty, and
so
like,
I
all
wonder
of
if
that.
it would be better to ask like, how are you feeling?
Yeah, or like,
is there, I don't know.
I don't
like,
know. I
just-
don't know what those pointed questions
Yeah.
would be. So,
or just really watching for cues.
yeah.
And then maybe saying like, hey, where's this coming from? Like, what are you feeling right now?
Which I
'Cause
kind of
that's
feel
not
like
really-
a couple times you did kind of
Yeah.
point that question of
I
like,
didn't really
why
have
are
the
you
language
feeling
for-
that way?
yeah.
Or like, why do you think that? Like,
Yeah.
you definitely tried a couple times, and I think it helped. I think also the biggest thing helped was you being able to tell Dad, hey, like, she needs
Back off. This one's mine.
Back
I
off.
got her.
Like, she needs a different type of parenting, and I think that is what made you guys really good parents.
Yeah.
Was you guys kind of balanced off each other of like, okay, she isn't responding to like what you're telling her, so let me try it in a different tone, you know. But I think too, like, the other thing that I would say you guys tried to do, which I would almost want, I wish we did more of, was like sitting down at dinners, which we did like a decent amount, I would say. But I remember like when Ariel would have dance and whatnot, and that was always hard to balance.
During the week was hard. I know we always had Sunday dinner, and anyone could come, but they couldn't go out on Sundays. It was like it was like church, and then come home and have big Sunday dinner. And I feel like that's super important to sit down at a meal, because as much as you can, because I know once kids start sports, it's really hard. But you have to incorporate it, because even even if they're not talking, it's like, I think bringing people around the table, and they've done studies where they said that if you have those kind of sit down dinners most nights, that the chances of your child not getting into like far into drugs and alcohol and things like that, because they know there's a core family unit that they can come back to, that the chances of them are less that they get involved in that kind of activity. So I found that really interesting. That was like, they did a study when I was selling Pampered Chef. They did a study with Illinois College. I can't remember what the name of the college is now, but they did a whole study on that. And it was like very important to have sit down dinners to try to like communicate. So, you know, I feel like that was something that imparted on me because I was a latchkey kid. Like my mom was a single mom. So like there wasn't family sit downs very much.
Well, and then like the irony is like I always wanted family together, but like I hated talking to everyone.
Yeah.
I was like,
Dawn was always like, well, let's play a game. Let's get the family
games.
together. But when it came to the real serious stuff, she's like, I'm out.
Yeah. Don't get serious with me.
Don't do that.
I want it to be fun and easy.
Fun. I just want to have fun and hug everyone. Oh, gosh. Okay. What's one good piece of advice that I gave you that stuck with you?
I feel like I'm going to say something, but I'm going to remember another thing later on and be like, wait, that one, you know? But I don't know.
I don't know.
Let me think about it for a second. Can I say a funny one?
Sure.
You always have to have the ingredients to make chocolate chip cookies in your pantry because you're always going to need all the ingredients.
Good advice. Because chocolate chip cookies was her favorite memory.
But you also are going to have all the ingredients like you'll always need flour for something. You're always going to need sugar.
Butter.
You're always going to need butter. Yeah, eggs. Like
for anything.
For anything. I don't know. I think you told me that, and it's always stuck to my head.
That's funny.
Someone told me that. I thought it was you, but
it might have been me.
Maybe.
It probably was me because
that sounds like it would
ask
be you.
Chrissy because we did the big chocolate chip cookie that she still remembers.
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite memory? When Phylis does the big chocolate chip cookie.
I think like piece of advice. I don't know if there's ever anything that you like really like word by word. You know how like some parents are like they have like their favorite.
Make sure you have clean underwear.
I don't think you ever told me that. No, but like you know how some parents have like
words of wisdom. I didn't
Yeah,
have words.
like but like they always had like one saying that they always had.
No,
I don't think you ever
sayings.
had that,
No.
but like I think you always had the basis of like trust your gut. You know your instincts. If you feel like a little something is talking to you, like listen to it.
Oh, see,
like that was I think that was
my thing.
Yeah, like so I feel like it was more so like life lessons, not so much of like one thing. Yeah.
We'll take that.
Yeah.
I mean, have ingredients for chocolate chip cookies.
Exactly.
Trust your gut.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question is, how do you want to do parenting, the same or differently?
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
I know.
That's a loaded question. That's also like an hour episode. Because like
That's a part 2.
But like don't have kids, not close to having kids anytime soon. So there's like not a really chance for me to even like think about it in that sense. But then also like Kate and I talk about it here and there, just like what we would like to implement, what maybe like his family did that like I would like to do. But I think like the big thing that we always come back to is we both want to do like dinners. Like we want to have the Sunday dinner. Yeah. Everyone's invited. Like anyone could come over, but like it's always a Sunday sit down dinner.
Yeah.
And then like having dinner at the dinner table, like trying to implement that. Like that's a big one for us. And then it is funny because I just said something the other day. I said my parents did this and I don't want to do this. I can't remember what it was though. I think there's like some things that I'm like, yeah, like you guys did this that like I don't think I would want to teach my kid, or I don't want my kid to like feel that way. Maybe I felt that way when you said something or did something. And so I'm like, oh, I don't want to make them feel that way, so I'm not going to do that. But then also like saying all of that is such a like, you can say it all you want, but you never know how you're going to be at the end of the day.
But I think it's important to implement your own way with your husband, like
Yeah.
every generation should do it a little bit differently. Of course you're going to pull some good stuff that like you said, like the things that make you feel good that you're like, that helped me as a kid, or I remembered that as a good memory as a child. I want to implement that into my family. And then like, yeah, I didn't really like when they did this or said that or implemented this rule or whatever. Probably won't do that with my kids. That's perfectly fine. I think
Yeah.
you need to find your own balance and and know that, it's still not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like,
At the
like
end of
you'll
the
have
day.
someday you'll be sitting here with your adult child and be like, what did I mess up? I don't know. Didn't know better. But, I think each generation learns a little bit
Yeah.
more. So I'm just really grateful for the ride.
Yeah.
And she turned out great.
Yeah. I mean, I try.
So,
But yeah, okay, wait, I just thought of something else. So going back to what you said, what would parent differently? So the one thing that Kate and I were talking about is I was like, my parents, so we've talked about two things, parents fighting and how that looks for your kids. And then also like how like you fight in front of your kids, but not to the extent of like fighting in front of your kids
Right.
or like then
bringing them into the argument.
yeah, because I also heard like a podcast one time, and the girl was like, "My parents were so against fighting with each other because the mom came from a really like alcoholic, abusive family, and so
Yeah.
they would like she would have to break up their fights,
Yeah.
and they were physical fights. So
Right.
whenever her and the dad would get into fights, they'd go into the other room, they'd close the door, and they would like be really quiet and they
Yeah.
would fight. And she's like, but then her mom would come out and they'd be like, are you fighting or something? She's like, no, we're not fighting. We're not fighting. So it was almost to an extent of like harmful because as she grew
They
up,
didn't learn how
she
to-
didn't learn how to have a healthy fight. And so we
Sure.
were talking about that between like both of our parents, like how did they fight? Like how did that look? And then the one thing that we were talking about was more so where I was like, I don't think my parents fought, but both my parents had such a loud voice that I think like to me, like that was
Hey,
not
Italian Portuguese. We can't help it. We're
But,
just like
like-
expressing ourselves.
exactly. But it was like not to me like you weren't fighting, you
No.
were just talking really loud.
We never screamed at each other. Like,
No.
I just don't.
No.
Because I did come from a violent background. I didn't ever want to have that imparted on you guys. But, we are a loud family. We talk loud. We'd get expressive. And we kind of did the same thing. Like, we would start kind of fighting and bickering, I would say, in front of you guys. And then I didn't really want you guys to be a part of the fight. So we would do the same thing. We'd take it in another room. Like after you guys would go to bed or whatever, we would hash it out privately. But yeah, it's such a hard
I
thing.
feel like that's such a hard balance.
It
even
is.
it's just
Because you
like
do want to show your kids that disagreements, you can still love each other at the end of it. And you don't always wrap it up in a neat little bow in 2 hours. Like sometimes it takes until the next day to really like kind of hash it
But then
through.
also like you're not going to show them like
But you,
okay, like we made up, like like
and
it's just,
also you don't want your kids being involved in your personal stuff. Like they don't need to be a part of it. That's too much for them to hold. And so it's this weird dance that you
balance.
have to do. And so that's when we would start getting kind of like more personal into it. We had to
Or,
shut
like,
it down.
snippy.
Yeah, because I didn't want you guys to have to like pick a side or figure out how to fix it for us. It's like that's not a part of your job. And so that's why we would always just take it and just be like, let's scrap it for now. And which is hard because then you're like kind of mad at each other and you're trying to continue. We're fine. Let's just eat dinner.
Well, and then the other thing too is like, so like Kate always wants to just like talk it out. And he's also very like, he hates when like I think I'm not like raising my voice, but I just start getting like a little louder. And
Can't
he's
help
like,
it.
you're raising your voice at me, like bring it back. And so I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic when like I'm going to probably do that a couple times on accident. And he's going to probably get mad at me later and be like, you were raising your voice at me.
You were yelling at me.
Like you were yelling. Yeah. And I'm like, I wasn't yelling. This is my normal tone. Yeah. But I think that's going to be like a interesting thing. But that was something that we talked about where I was like, you guys never full on yelled, but I think you guys both have really loud voices.
Yeah, sure.
So it would just be a louder
Yeah.
topic.
You kind of knew when it was getting a little bit elevated, like,
Yeah.
oh, they're not just talking, something's going on.
Something's going on. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
So I think that'll be an interesting thing for us.
Yeah.
But we both have talked about, like, we want to try to keep our voice levels down.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
Oh, okay. Well, this was interesting. Loved it. And
Did you learn anything?
I did. Yeah, I learned some stuff. But I think more so it's going to be great for other moms to hear and know. And also I love the fact that having grown daughters now, miss you, Ariel.
Yeah,
she's
sorry,
at
Ariel.
home, like, working and taking care of
We
3
didn't
kids.
think about the fact that we should have recorded when you were down here.
We're going to record next year. We'll do something.
We'll try to do something, all 3 of us, hopefully.
But it's nice, to have your kids grow up and then be able to look back and see, like, hey, where's some areas that I could improve, and where's some things that, I imparted on you that are good. Mm-hmm. And always learning to improve on the relationship. And plus, like, I'm just so proud of you because we did have some hard times and we came out of it.
Aw, thanks.
Love you.
We like each other now.
We do. We love
it.
each
It only
other.
took like 10 years. Keep in there, everyone.
I always loved her. There was moments.
Yeah, it was rough. Yeah. I just think, like, you just have to, I think the good thing is you always were there. Like, you never, even though, like, I pushed you away so hard, you never left. You were like, no, I'm still here. I'm still here. But you weren't doing it in an overbearing way. You did it in a very, like, oh, you need to call me? You need to talk to me? Yeah, I'll listen. But it was very, like, I don't know. You did a good way of
Thank you.
Of balancing my crazy emotions.
You're kind of like me, so
That's probably why,
I understood that. I was like, oh, 16-year-old me understands this.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard when you have a lot of emotions, and then if you're just that kid that is kind of like has a rebellious side, is kind of fighting against the system and just doesn't want anyone to tell you what to do, and there's this push-pull, like, you love your family.
I still don't want anyone to tell me what to do.
You still don't. I mean, that's just a quality.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I hope this episode helped you guys to understand motherhood is very layered, and it's very hard, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever done. And I'm super proud of my girls, and just I'm just glad for the ride. So happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day and happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, honey.
Yeah. Bye.
See you later, peeps.